Did somebody just figure out when Winds and Waves could be releasing? Of course, this game is dropping in 2027, as we all know, but man, that is way too long of a wait. So could it actually be an earlier release? Brand new generations of Pokemon typically drop in November-ish. It's kind of the general area or time that these games do usually drop. And there is some proof to back this one up, so I want to know from you guys first, when do you think this game is going to drop in 2027? And as always, right before we do hop into it, subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications to help reach my goal of 45,000 subscribers so you don't miss all brand new Pokemon news, leaks, and updates. Let's hop right into it. So we do have this user over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that has came out to say some very interesting things, which his claim is that Pokemon Winds and Waves will be between February or March of 2027, making this game a release earlier in the year, right? Which I also do want to quickly mention that we do have leaks of a brand new Mario 3D game coming out next year for the holidays. So if that is true, and if that is still happening, that would actually make sense for them to place Pokemon Winds and Waves kind of earlier in the year, or at least maybe around the summertime or before. So that way, the holiday season of 2027 could have Mario as like the main game. Of course, that's just a theory of mine at the moment. He is also saying that he's going to bring all the proof that leads us directly to this. All games bring references and teasers to future releases. I've made videos about different teasers and hints, Easter eggs that we have already had way in the past that have been confirmed, and stuff that we do believe is directly referencing Generation 10, basically being it from Pokopia or even Scarlet and Violet or Legends ZA, saying Pokopia makes it clear with a new coloration for Shellos, which is going to be a yellow Shellos that should be in Generation 10. This is quite literally directly referenced in Pokopia, so I think this one is almost as good as confirmed. We even recently had a leak of a bunch of beta Generation 4 Pokemon, and yeah, they were actually working on a yellow Gastrodon, which does entail yellow Shellos was probably in the works, and I think now is the perfect time. This generation, Generation 10, Winds and Waves, undoubtedly is the best game for a brand new coloration of Shellos to appear. I also believe that Pokopia makes a direct connection with Generation 10 through Winds, with the floating cities and the Waves version being the aquatic cities. The proof of this is that in the franchise, we didn't have floating cities before, and they came in Pokopia, and now the DLC brings diving into the waves. So one of the cities in Pokopia is a floating city, and now with the new DLC, we are seeing the introduction to underwater cities, or like being able to go underwater and build underwater in Pokopia. What's also important to remember with this specific statement is that there were early rumors of Generation 10 Winds and Waves having floating islands, although we're not sure if that's still the case. We don't know if that's still going to be in Winds and Waves, but another thing that I do want to point out is that we know that Pokemon, Game Freak, Nintendo, whatever, they want to directly tie in everything together, being the anime, Pokopia, Winds and Waves, Legends ZA even. They want to connect and combine all of these things together to kind of make it a little bit more seamless, if that makes sense. Now we have a Ditto in the anime, obviously kind of referencing Pokopia. And of course, when Winds and Waves does drop, we're going to get a whole anime arc kind of, based within that region, I'm sure. Maybe even a movie or something. We already have the focus on diving revealed in the first trailer for Winds and Waves, and I believe we'll also have floating cities that we should explore with the help of legendary Pokemon. There was another recent leak about Winds and Waves saying that there are some places in the map that you can only access by flying with a Pokemon. So this could be a hint as to, maybe floating islands. Although it doesn't have to be floating islands, that's just of course a rumor of like the floating islands thing, but the leak of being able to fly to some areas is real and does kind of make sense because we will have areas that we won't be able to unlock until, a certain amount of time in the story or until we get that ability to fly, right? And the second trailer could reveal this because maybe the first trailer was kind of mostly based on waves, I guess you could say. So maybe trailer number 2 is going to be based on winds, showing off the floating cities and stuff like that, maybe the legendary Pokemon. With Pokopia connecting to Winds and Waves, the third part of the DLC will probably already bring Pokemon from Winds and Waves, so it needs to be released with dates very close together. And the most impactful fact is that the DLC for Pokopia had its dates advanced, probably to align with Gen 10's launch at the beginning of the year. So the dates before for the DLC of Pokopia were 10/31/26, 03/31/27, and then 09/30/27. Now it is 08/05/26, sometime later in 2026, and then some point in 2027, which we don't have the specific dates for yet. Third part of the DLC would be released in September of 2027, close to the Winds Waves launch, which could bring in novelties from Gen 10, which this is something that I've been talking about and theorizing for a long time now because it just makes perfect sense. Even if they were to bring in a brand new Gen 10 Pokemon into Winds and Waves before Winds and Waves even does completely drop, because this is something they have done in the past where they drop a Pokemon in a game, like a spin-off game or whatever, before it comes out in their generation, meaning like before that generation even fully came out or released. And I think it's definitely safe to say eventually Gen 10 Pokemon will be in the Pokopia DLC, and I personally am a believer that it will be part 3 DLC. We will get some new Gen 10 Pokemon, hopefully a lot, and if not, then they're definitely going to kind of drip feed it into the game over time. But everything was advanced because Gen 10 will be at the beginning of the year. Another important factor is that Nintendo is producing 20 million units of the Switch 2 by March 2027. We know Ocarina of Time is huge, and having Ocarina at the end of the year and Pokemon at the beginning would smash any projected numbers, especially since Pokemon is the biggest franchise in the world, and this is the most ambitious project in the franchise. Right now, we are seeing a huge influx of Switch 2 sales. People say it could be because Splatoon Raiders. We saw this with Pokopia. When that game dropped, we did see an influx of sales. So when Ocarina of Time does drop, people are going to be rushing to purchase a Switch 2. Pokemon is going to be no different. When Gen 10 drops, the people that didn't already purchase a Switch 2 will probably be getting a Switch 2 just to play Winds and Waves. And the same even goes for the next 3D Mario game, where when that game does drop next year, which we do have pretty big rumors of from reputable sources, I would say, which I have been discussing over on that second channel, so check it out, link in the description. That's also going to give them a lot of sales for the Switch 2, and obviously Nintendo wants to sell more Switch 2 consoles, which, by the way, the price of the Switch 2 is going to be increasing in these states. I believe it is September 1st, so if you were thinking about getting a Switch 2, the time is running out before the price does go up. Although the price increase is only $50, which is better compared to, Xbox or PlayStation raising it by hundreds. Many will argue that it doesn't make sense due to the lack of marketing and trailers, but it's not like Pokemon needs a full year of marketing to sell a hit. After all, a single trailer was enough to make it one of the most anticipated games of all time. That said, I believe the end of 2026, after the Ocarina of Time launch, around December we should get a new trailer with pre-orders starting and the release date officially announced. Which breaks another community argument that good sales always happen at the end of the year, justifying next year, but once the launch is at the beginning of the year, pre-orders will start at the end of 2026, ensuring strong numbers. But another factor is that Pokemon sells regardless of the season. Just make it a quote like saying Pokemon always launches at the end of the year. Saying that's a solid argument, but if we weren't already waiting for a new generation, it's the longest we've gone without the main franchise generation, so in theory, we're already late on delivery. Now to wrap it up, there's currently a British testing company assisting at Nintendo's request. If we already have a testing company and so many rumors are circulating in the halls, it's because things are moving, my friends. This will be the biggest launch in the franchise, and I'll be right there with you. Okay, so once again, this is not a leak, but this is a very good theory that I low-key kind of do agree with. Here's the thing though, I wouldn't be surprised if this game did just come out later in the year, maybe even like September. Could even still be a little bit earlier of a release, and maybe that big 3D Mario game is going to be a summer release. Of course, sources will say one thing and then another source will say another, but it does still seem like Winds and Waves obviously is coming out. That has been confirmed, and it does seem like a Mario 3D game, like on the scale of, Mario Odyssey or Galaxy, on that level, will be dropping next year as well. So obviously those games are not going to drop like side by side. They will more than likely space these games out. And the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because it does kind of give us an idea of when Winds and Waves is going to drop. And yeah, if they do decide to drop this in the beginning of the year, people will be buying it. I know I'm going to be buying it day one. It is Pokemon, it is Winds and Waves. There is enough hype around this to make it a success, regardless of when it does drop. Pokemon Legends Arceus dropped in January, I do believe. And that game was still a pretty good success. I mean, it's a Legends game, so it didn't sell as well as a brand new generation, but that's kind of as expected, right? Especially since that was the first Pokemon Legends game that they have done. Now about that second trailer. He is saying that he thinks we could be getting a new trailer in December for Winds and Waves, but I don't know where I stand on that. I still kind of do believe we won't see another trailer until Pokemon Day, and if that is the case, then I could see this game maybe dropping in the summertime, like maybe being a June or July release. But I think the safest thing to say is next year the marketing for Winds and Waves is going to go absolutely insane. We will be seeing a ton of trailers. We will have a lot of big reveals, and we are still going to be getting leaks throughout this year. Leaks and rumors are always going to stand, but honestly, this theory is pretty compelling, and if this does actually happen, where Winds and Waves drops maybe in March or something, or at least the first couple months of next year, I really wouldn't be surprised. We even do have a rumor of a Pokemon Presents coming out in August, which is not like a very strong rumor, but it is a rumor nonetheless. Let's just say theoretically, if we do get a Present soon, maybe they changed their mind and maybe they are going to be dropping that big next trailer in August, and then that's when they're going to really start ramping up the marketing for Winds and Waves. Although I'm not sure if they would want to do that to kind of like overshadow Ocarina of Time, because that game is coming out this year in a couple of months. So we have a lot to think about, but of course, I need to know your opinion on this and your theories and your thoughts, because I just find this entire theory here fascinating. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are watching this far, comment down below, Jzard said what? And then I'm gonna send him a bunch of screenshots of the comments, and then he's gonna be confused out of his mind. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.